Good morning, Senator Marcos. I'm Bea Jacinto straight from Radyo Bandido with my co-host, Ricky Alegre.
Good
We're,
morning, Senator Marcos.
Good morning, Bea. Good morning, Ricky. And good morning to all of those watching and listening. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
we're so happy to have you with us today. Thank you for making time.
Well, we are in the middle of our provincial sortie. So, yes, and I'm very happy to have been able to find the time to come and be with you this morning.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Marcos, many people are saying the PCGG, or the Presidential Commission for Good Government, which was formed after the EDSA revolution, has outlived its usefulness. PCGG itself has been accused of having corruption in its ranks at one time or another. My question is, do you think it should be abolished as many sectors have suggested?
Well, it's true that it has, in its present form, and in the way that it was organized in 1986, maybe it could be said that they no longer perform the function that they were originally created to do. However, we can go back to the idea that they are a commission on good government. And corruption still remains to be a very big problem in our government. And there have been very many good suggestions that say let's strengthen the PCGG and use it as an anti-corruption body, anti-corruption agency, as it was intended to do. Although maybe perhaps you could say that the first time it was organized, it was really an um, anti-Marcos agency. Nonetheless, we can turn it into a real anti-corruption agency, and then the job that it was meant to do from the very beginning has not been finished, and so we should look into if not strengthening the PCGG as it stands now, is recreating some kind of body that will perform that function, anti-corruption function that the PCGG was originally formed for.
Thank you for that, Senator Marcos.
Senator Marcos, of course, the martial law is an election issue. And people want to know, are you committed not to use this or declare martial law if you become president?
Well, martial law is needed when you are at war. And if we somehow find ourselves at war, and I sincerely pray and hope that that never happens, then you have to institute martial law. Let us look in the situation going on right now between Russia and Ukraine. At the very point, once the enemy forces entered into the borders of Ukraine, they declared martial law. But that is a necessity, but it only comes up when we are at war. That is why, despite all of the criticisms of martial law, it remains in the Constitution in the event that war is declared upon us, or that we are somehow embroiled in a war, and we will need to institute martial law. But I don't see it happening in the near future. I don't see that there's going to be that necessity in the near future. We will certainly do everything we can to avoid getting into that situation, because it is an extreme and an emergency situation that we would really not want to be involved in, considering especially that we are trying to recover from the pandemic, and that we are trying to rebuild our economy and refocus all our energies so that the Filipinos can go back to work. Filipinos can once again have a good job where they can feed their families. These are the basic elements that we're trying to achieve. So being involved in some kind of war, or in some kind of confrontation, military confrontation, would be highly counterproductive. So that's something that we would like to avoid as much as we can.
That's very nice to hear, Senator Marcos. Thank you.
Our third question, Senator Marcos, is during the 60s, the Philippines was next only to Japan among our Southeast Asian neighbors.
Mhm.
Philippines had a thriving manufacturing industry in steel, textiles, and chemicals, and was the first choice of the international business companies to set up manufacturing industries in Asia. Now, even Vietnam has two integrated steel mills and has overtaken Philippine economy. The local industries were protected from imports that could destroy the viability of local industries. The Filipinos have to go abroad to adequately support their families, and as a result, families are separated, and many of us cannot live together with our families. Manufacturing create jobs. Will you revive the industrialization and domestic manufacturing in the country and give protection against damaging imports, just like developed countries protected their industries when they were starting?
We will. The next administration will have to uh, revive the industrialization drive that was started maybe in the 70s. Really, we have to continue that. Our manufacturing, if you look at the history, the economic history of many of our neighbors, they became wealthy and economically strong because of trade. And trade means that you are trading something. And if we are not manufacturing anything, and our manufacturing sector has really been diminished in the past few years for many reasons, not no fault to the investors or to the businessmen who would like to continue the manufacturing sector and to enlarge it. So if the manufacturing sector has shrunk, and then we have to really go back and redesign that part of our economy for the simple reason that if we want to be involved in trade, then we have to have something to trade with. We are at present very dependent on the service sector, the OFWs and uh, all of the many opportunities that are being given to Filipinos abroad. This has changed from what was started as seafarers and then professionals and the skilled labor to now we encompass the entire range. So that is something that we need to address very, very clearly. And manufacturing is a very important part of that. So whatever the next administration will be, it will have to look into that. And because the critical element here are jobs, really. When you look at the recovery of the economy and you talk to people and you ask, are you happy with how we responded to the pandemic, or what do you think about the pandemic? They always come back down to jobs and no income, walang sweldo, walang pera, walang pambayad sa kuryente, walang pambayad sa tubig. Yun ang mga problema ng mga Pilipino ngayon. Kaya what we really have to do is to bring back those jobs. And many of those will be in manufacturing. Many of those will be in the service industries like tourism, where many of those will be in support of the MSMEs, the small businesses that were hit very hard. And again, the infrastructure development, all of that has to come into play. If we are going to revive and reshape the economy in the direction that the global economy is going. So yes, that is something that will be absolutely a priority for the next administration. And the creation of jobs will be the first in line in terms of priorities. And in the long term, however, we need to there are many ways to ask investors to come to the Philippines, but we have heard many of the chambers of commerce or potential investors saying that we need also to fix our systems here in the Philippines. Our bureaucracy has to become more meritocratic so that they can handle all of these new arrangements that we are hoping to come to. The question of energy and the availability and the price of power and the reliability of that supply is always called into question. The ease of doing business in our country is something that also has to be addressed. You quoted Vietnam. I have many friends who have invested in Vietnam, and they say that they talk to officials in the evening over dinner, and by breakfast time, all the documentation is prepared. And that's how easy it is to do business, how easy it is to invest in places like Vietnam. And that is something that we have to catch up to. And so there's a great deal of work to do on our end. If we are going to expect to industrialize, to once again revive trade, to revive the manufacturing industry. But it also brings us to the question of agriculture. The agricultural sector has to remain as the base of our economy. We're still an agricultural economy at the heart of it. And I think the pandemic showed very, very clearly that importation is something that is a little precarious for us, because when the ships weren't traveling, when we could not import the food, we did not have enough supply. And the reason we did not have enough supply is because our production was insufficient. Our production was insufficient because we haven't developed our agricultural sector to keep up with the demand in the country. And that is something that will have to be immediately addressed. And by the way, if there is public investment into agriculture, that will create a great many jobs. Kasi agriculture naman, pag sinasabi, naiisip natin nagtatanim lang, o nag-aalaga ng hayop, o nangangisda, o may fish pond, or whatever. Pero hindi yan eh. Hindi lamang yan eh. Marami tayong kailangan gawin. We have to revitalize the research and development into what are the better varieties, what are the better techniques for our agricultural sector. And we have now the specter of global warming, and we have to adjust to that, and that takes science. So we start with the R&D. We start now. We have a very big problem in agriculture. Taas ng presyo ng fertilizer. And I was shocked to know that urea is already selling at 2,500. And some farmers are saying, we won't plant. Hindi na nagtatanim dahil hindi naman sila kikita. Dahil napakataas ng abono, ng presyo ng abono. Ngayon pa, nagkagera dito sa Russia at Ukraine, tataas na naman ang presyo ng langis, ayan na naman, tataas na naman yung abono. Kaya these are the problems that the government has to take on for our farmers. Hindi kayang ayusin ng farmer yan. Hindi yung isa-isa magsasaka. Kailangan ng gobyerno makahanap ng solution dyan. Maybe we will make an arrangement with our friendly countries that they can provide fertilizer at bulk rates. The government will buy it. Let us include it in the production loan, for the production loan that we will give our farmers. Baka ganun ang mga scheme na kailangan natin gawin. Pero kailangan natin buhayin ang agriculture sector. Yun ang palagay ko. We cannot expect our economy to thrive unless the agricultural sector is able to provide a secure and strategic food supply to our country. Kung may mangyari man, magka-pandemya ulit, sapat na yung pagkain natin dito, hindi tayo umaasa sa importation. Hindi pa rin marami sa amin ang hindi makapaniwala hanggang ngayon. We cannot believe that the Philippines, which comprises over 7,000 islands, is importing galunggong. That is the state of affairs that we have to fix.
Thank you, Senator Marcos. Senator Marcos, you are leading in the polls in spite of many sectors hitting you. You have shown equanimity and you never hit back, which is good, because you seem like you want to reach out and unite the country. My question is, will you and how?
We must. Again, the present administration cannot continue with the polarization that there are some sectors, especially in the political arena, seem to be intent on making worse and worse and dividing the country. If there is one lesson that we have learned in this pandemic, is that every Filipino needs help. It doesn't matter how powerful you are. It doesn't matter how rich you are. It doesn't matter what your position is in society. everyone needs help to recover from the pandemic. And we cannot expect others to help us, other countries, even our friends around the world, because they have their own problems. So the only one, ang lagi kong nababanggit, ang maaasahan lang nating natutulong sa Pilipino, yung mga Pilipino din. And to be able to do that, to be able to recover, we have to bring Filipinos together. Look, I understand that there are many positions in the political spectrum that we face. But I think the one thing we can agree on is that we love our countrymen. We love our country. So let's work with that as the beginning point. And that's when I talk about unity, that's when I talk about pagkakaisa. Yan ang aking ibig sabihin. Pagkasunduan muna natin na tayo naman mga Pilipino, nagmamahal tayo sa kapwa Pilipino at mahal natin ang bansang Pilipinas. Kaya lahat ng gagawin natin, kahit na hindi tayo magkasundo sa lahat ng ibang bagay, doon naman tayo magkasundo. Tulungan muna natin ang Pinas. Tulungan muna natin ang Pinoy. That's what I mean about unification. It is sometimes misinterpreted as a political unification. Well, maybe that will come too, but that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. And so we need to find the best people, the best Filipinos to come and help government, to come and help private sector, to come and help ordinary citizens. We need everyone. We need everybody's help. We cannot say, hindi, kami lang ang marunong, kami lang ang magaling, kami lang ang tama, kami lang ang mahusay, kami lang ang mabuting tao, kayo, masasama kayong lahat, kung hindi tayo magkasama. Hindi po pwede yan. Walang mangyayari sa atin. That kind of politics, yung mga cancel culture, yung mga ganun yung mga nangyayari ngayon. Ang naitutulong sa tao yan eh. So we have to really change our thinking and move away from this polarizing politics, and we have to find a better way and unify the country, because we have very many problems that we face, and there's much work that needs to be done, and not one person can do it, not the government by itself can do it, not the private sector by itself can do it, but we have to really all come together, agree, come to a consensus on what we need to do to bring the country forward, and work in that direction. And that's what I mean about pagkakaisa and unity.
Senator Marcos, just to add to that, we know that this is your campaign message. Does it also mean that you're willing to bring in members of the opposition when you are in the administration to come in and help?
When the elections are over, there is no longer opposition and there is no longer, wala na yan. Tapos na yung eleksyon namili na yung tao. Ngayon, lahat tayo pwede ba mag-usap tayo kung ano yung maitutulong ninyo? Are you ready to help the government? Ito yung iniisip namin na kailangan gawin. It turns out that despite the fact that you came from another party, you're the best expert on this subject. Please come and help us because we need your help. So we need ang daming magaling Pilipino. It's just ang dami talaga nating magagaling na Pilipino, and they are excelling abroad. Filipinos always excel. Let's bring the talent back here to the Philippines. Let's bring the talent. Let's collect the talent and apply it all to this recovery that we're talking about. Recovery from the pandemic, recovery of the economy. In the context of the global economy, etc., we have to understand COVID changed everything. And the old solutions, the economic theories, the post-industrial, neo-Keynesian, all of these economic theories changed, no longer apply because everything changed. And we have to have these fine minds that I know Filipinos have to analyze and to be able to understand the direction that the global economy is moving. Where are the areas that the Philippines can participate and flourish? And these are this is the kind of advice, this is the kind of thinking that we are going to need to be successful in the next administration. So the political color of someone will become secondary to their expertise and their willingness to work to make things better.
Very well said, sir.
Senator Marcos, we briefly touched on this. You briefly touched on this topic with Ricky's previous question. I'd like to ask you another question, sir, if you don't mind. DZRJ believes that a government that cannot even deliver a reasonable price of food to the tables of the Filipino families is really not doing its job. We import food when we should be exporting food. The main problem is the lack of farm-to-market infrastructure and transportation and logistics, plus middlemen and 5-6 lenders that drive the prices of food up to 10 times more than the price at the source. What are your thoughts on the production and price of food to become more efficient?
What you really have to do is set up again the system. And that starts, as I said, with R&D, and then it starts with production loans, and it comes with the best inputs that you can give the farmers, technical support, techno demos for the farmers. And then after that, you have to mechanize. We have to mechanize. In terms of palay, for example, very simple, rice. The labor component of production cost of the Philippines is twice that, double that of Vietnam or Thailand. Kaya mataas ang presyo ng price of production natin. So we have to mechanize. To be able to mechanize, our average, the rest of the country is about 1 hectare, but in Ilocos Norte, the average landholding was 0.6 hectares. Now, you cannot mechanize at a large scale kung maliliit lang talaga yung plot. So what you do is you organize the farmers into cooperatives. You organize them so that you are able to mechanize, use the big tractors, use the big harvesters, use all the big machines that bring efficiency into what you are doing. Secondly, is the post-production facilities, the drying, the milling, all of that. We've done very little to help the farmers in that regard. So the big milling operations are all private. They should be government. Or dapat bigay na natin sa farmer yan. Yung cooperative nila, sila na magpatakbo niyan. So that yung value added at each step of the way, hindi mapunta sa private, mapupunta doon sa magsasaka mismo. And then, from there, after we have processed the rice, the fish, the livestock, then we bring it down to what we used to have was the food terminals. Kung saan bagsakan ng produkto ng agrikultura. Na pupunta sa Kadiwa store, which is the retail arm of the whole system, and the retail arm, and that to be able to sell all these basic commodities at a good price, because government does not need to profit. And so that will be the advantage of government. We've had that system for a while, but after 86 it was dismantled, but it was not replaced with anything else. We have a problem in terms of irrigation. Alam mo naman, pagka pinag-uusapan our crops, pinaka-importante dyan, patubig. Kaya kailangan ayusin natin yung ating irrigation systems. Tapos yung NFA, dapat ibalik na natin sa dating function ng NFA. Ang function ng NFA is to stabilize prices of rice and corn over the year. In other words, pag panahon ng ani, mababa ang presyo, bibili ang NFA to maintain the price. Kapag tag-araw na at walang ani, tumataas ang presyo, magbibitaw siya ng supply para bumaba ang presyo. Para over the year, medyo may price stabilization ng konti. And that's the function of NFA. Now, all they do is import. Kaya we have to change the mindset of everyone. Again, I cannot still believe that we are importing mackerel, importing galunggong. How is that possible? we we occupy, we are archipelagic country. Ang pinamamadaling alagaan na galunggong. Hindi ba pang mahirap nga dapat yan, yung wala nang ano, you can get that anywhere, di ba? Tapos nag-i-import tayo. Hindi, kaya nga the system has been allowed to deteriorate to such an extent that we have to import rice, that we have to import basic commodities, food commodities, to the point that we are importing galunggong. I mean, I think that describes the terrible state that we have allowed our agri to come into.
Thank you for that answer, Senator Marcos. Would you like to add any final words to our audience?
Well, I would like to continue and once again explain yung aming pagkakampanya ay ang talagang ang aming ipinaglalaban, ang adhikain namin is really pagkakaisa. I truly believe ito yung unang hakbang para tayo ay makarecover dito sa ating pinagdaanan ng pandemya, dito sa ating krisis ng ekonomiya na hinaharap natin ngayon. Kaya sana naman maunawaan, mukha namang nauunawaan ng ating mga kababayan ito. Kaya ipapatuloy na natin itong ating kilusan ng pagkakaisa. Isabuhay natin ito, hindi lamang sa politika, kung hindi pati na sa ating mga sariling buhay at sa lipunan natin. Kaya maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat. And thank you for this opportunity to speak on this very important subject.
Maraming salamat po sa
Thank you,
inyo.
Senator Marcos.
Thank you po.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you very
Have
much.
a nice
Good
day.
morning.
Thank you po.